Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Craig Irvin, and I will be covering Microsoft Active Directory domain services. And basically, we're going to be covering general design and the different tools that you use on a daily basis. So what exactly is Active Directory? The way I see it, it's essentially a database that's going to store some key pieces of information about a user, and also provides us administrators a single point of management for those users and their information. The primary objects that we typically run into on a daily basis are going to be the different organizational units that objects reside in, user objects, contact objects, group objects, which can exist as a security group or distribution group, as well as computer objects, which are essentially workstations and servers. Another question that some people ask are, what type of services does Active Directory provide? And in a nutshell, the most common things is that it's going to provide us administrators a single point of user management. It's going to provide what they call LDAP, which is a lightweight directory access protocol. Typical uses of this is going to be spam filters using LDAP to verify a user exists, along with the email address that goes along with that user. Kerbos-based authentication, DNS, a single sign-on. It can be extended also because this is essentially a database, so you can extend Active Directory to include third-party applications such as Exchange. And one of the big things, obviously, is fault tolerance through synchronization. So whenever you make a change on one domain controller, it will be propagated over to another through synchronization. Now, to cover some of the common naming conventions, I want to go over this quick list of different conventions that are quite typically seen. For the most part, the one that you see in scripts and also whenever you're listing out where a user or some other object exists is going to be the distinguished name, also abbreviated DN. And here you can see that my user, Craig Irvin, is in the OU of PA, and then in another OU, iterate, and then in a domain called iterate.dev. So going over here, if you put that into the distinguished name, you would go from the inside out, starting with your common name, and then the organizational units that you exist in, and then ending with the domain components of iterate.dev. In addition, you have the relative distinguished name, which is not really used all that often, but it is essentially just your common name. You also have your SAM account name, which is the user logon name here. You also have user principal name, which is your combination of your SAM account name plus the domain that you're in with the @ So if you actually logged into Windows with the user principal name, you would essentially just do cirvin@iterate.dev. In addition, you have a pre-Windows 2000 name, which is the domain name iterate-dev, and then the username cirvin. And in this, typically people, when they log into Windows that is joined to a domain, they would use a drop-down box to select iterate-dev. But you can actually do iterate-dev /cirvin as well and log in without having to select a domain name. And then it's common in the things I do. You also typically deal with security identifiers, and this is essentially how Windows sees it. These can change based on the user moving from domain to domain, but quite typically they stay the same. Now I'd like to cover some of the typical management tools that we use to view users, manage their data, and manipulate AD in general. The most common thing that you're going to wind up using is going to be Active Directory Users and Computers, also known as ADUC. And you can launch this from the run command by doing dsa.msc. We also have ADSI edit, which is from the run command adsi edit.msc. And essentially what this tool is for is almost the same thing as Active Directory users and computers, but it gives you more information with the different attributes and properties that exist inside of objects. You also have DNS, which is dnsmgmt.msc. This is essentially just used to manage domain names for like computers and also services that you're going to start up. For instance, NLB, you would make a DNS entry in there to reference the NLB address. You also have the group policy management tool. This is an add-on tool, and it's gpmc.msc. If you do a brand new install of Active Directory and you check the properties of an OU, underneath the group policy tab you would have a link saying install the new group policy management tool, and you just click on that and then follow the directions to install it. This also allows you to manage more easily the different group policies that you're going to have in your domain, and you can launch the editor from here. We also have PowerShell, which is gaining more popularity, and it's something that I just recently started delving into myself, and I plan on covering that in future segments. And then you have VBScript, which is what I use on a daily basis. This really helps doing certain management functions, logon scripts, for instance, setting user environments up, etc., etc. Now, to help cover and reinforce some of the things I just spoke about inside of the different slides, I'm going to go over to a Active Directory domain controller and cover some of the things. Also, I'm going to cover essentially a general organization of Active Directory, at least in my mind, how things should be set up. And what you really want to do when it comes down to it is you want to keep things simple. And so, like I said, the best principle is KISS. With programming, quite typically you want to avoid spaces as much as possible. It just makes it easier for hard coding or just referencing different objects that you're going to be calling. And let's go ahead and switch over to the virtual environment here. Okay, here is Active Directory users and computers. As you see in the screenshot that I provided in the slide, it's going to be a little bit different. I actually renamed the iterate OU to iterate team. This is just to make it a little bit more unique. Then inside here I have a sub OU of PA with my user object Craig Irvin. And here is ADSI edit. As you can see, there's a couple extra nodes in here. There's domain, configuration, and schema. The stuff that you're going to be typically dealing with is just going to be inside the domain container. And this is essentially when we're talking about the common name, you can see this all broken out with the DCs and CNs and OUs, etc. So here is going all the way down to my object Craig Irvin. And when you actually check the properties of my Craig Irvin object, you'll see all kinds of different attributes showing up. And there's just a million of them, and these will change, grow, subtract depending on different applications that you install that utilizes the Active Directory for its place to store information. Some of the common stuff that you'll see is whenever you install Exchange are these extension attributes. And thank you for watching so far. I'd like you to join me on part 2. Ran short on time. Thank you.